This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is brought to you by you, the audience. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and this is episode 99. We are a week away from the big 100th episode celebration. I'm very excited to share it with you. We've recorded a good chunk of it. Tina and I have been doing a lot of recording this past week with all of our Australian guests showing up. I've started receiving recordings from American guests as well. I haven't heard them yet. Apologies to my American guests who are listening to this episode. I said I would listen to them the other night, and I've been flat out at work. We've got this big thing coming up behind the scenes in our personal lives. Tina and I are going to talk about that, I imagine, on episode 101. At that point, I've probably spoiled it on Instagram anyway. But it's just been flat sticks. I've been very, very tired. I'm trying to get episode 100 together. I'm trying to get the show done. I'm working full time. It's just been nuts. Obviously, I bared my soul for the last 2 weeks doing those mental health episodes, as I mentioned. If you haven't listened to those yet, not a lot of fun. The first one's pretty fun. The one where I talk about going to the hospital is pretty funny. So I talk to Tina and I recount my adventure to the emergency room and the impacts that Valium had on me, because I've never considered myself to be too susceptible to a suppressant like that. And it turns out I just wasn't getting the right dose. So that's a pretty fun one. And then episode 98, I would say, is relatively grim. I'm also very tired when I record it, so I sound like this, and I'm very croaky, and I just tell you horrible things for an hour and 10 minutes. But I'm back in Film Snob HQ. It's freezing because it's just about the middle of winter, but with a sleeping toddler and a working wife, to Film Snob HQ I go to do my recording. So that's a lot of admin just to let you know that's episode 99. But next week, it's going to be killer. I'm going to be cutting the episode for the next week. I've got one more Australian recording to do with listener favorite, I should say, not fan, listener favorite, Nick Owen. Got to record with him. I'm waiting on 2 more American recordings, and then I just got to cut it all together. I've got a special guest to do the intro. Hopefully they'll be available to do it. I'm very excited to get them involved as well. But it's a lot of fun. We're all having a blast doing the radio play. And just like how most of my guests had never done a podcast before this show, most of them never acted or read a script before, but you wouldn't know it half the time. They're doing really, really well. And it's just, it's a blast. So I can't wait for you to hear it. It's very silly, goofy stuff. And it's the perfect way to celebrate 100 episodes. I'm glad we didn't do another list. Don't get me wrong. I love doing lists. I love movie lists. We're going to keep doing movie lists moving forward, but just to do something a little bit different. In fact, it's really funny because we were recording with Josh the other night, and afterwards he was like, man, we should do like a Dungeons and Dragons thing. And I was like, oh, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? He goes, no, like we should have done Dungeons and Dragons for episode 100. And I can say now, I think maybe I talked about it on the New Year's Eve special, but if I didn't, the original plan for episode 100 was 100% to Dungeons and Dragons. I was going to call it D and DVD and do like a whole Dungeons and Dragons style campaign where all of my guests were trying to get to a video store before it closed. But I haven't written anything in ages, so I didn't want to take a risk on sitting people around for 3 hours and not have it come to anything. But after the radio play, I think it's definitely feasible. So maybe episode 200, keep an ear out for that one. But we are talking about the past. We are talking about the future. What we are not talking about is the present. So for the last month or so, in the lead up to episode 100, I've been taking to social media. I've been asking people to submit their questions. And I've had like mixed results. I haven't probably had as many as I would have liked. However, it's not about the volume. It's just about getting engaged with the audience. So if you submitted a question, I have harbored it away. I've been keeping it safe, keeping it secret. Just like Frodo with the ring. And tonight I'm going to answer all the questions that have come through on social media. So I've got a fair few. I've got some from people you would have heard of before, just some people who follow the podcast on Instagram and want to get involved, and tons of anonymous ones as well. I told you guys I would answer every single question that came through, provided it wasn't a bot. Maybe 1 or 2 bots slipped through, I'm not sure. But I'll answer everything. Some of the questions are really deep and thought-provoking and intense, and some of them are really silly. But before we jump into that, let's do a quick roundup of what I've been watching. Let's do some quick reviews. I haven't been to the movies in a couple of weeks. Was hoping to get the movies last weekend, but I didn't get there. I was hoping to go to the movies this weekend, and it seems unlikely, although I just purchased Immaculate this morning. So right after I finish recording this, I'm going to sit down and, I'm actually watching The Owls of Ga'Hoole, the Zack Snyder animated owl film at the moment. So I'll finish that one first, and then I'll chuck on Immaculate and probably turn it off after 15 minutes because I'll be too scared to watch it alone. But what else have I watched this week? I was talking about some of the classic films I watched. Not too many new ones. I watched Being John Malkovich, which I'd never seen before, and I really liked it. Flick is weird as hell. I was expecting that, but it was weird in just a totally wonderful way. So it took me 25 years, but John Malkovich, I have now watched your movie, but it's really good. And I've rewatched a couple of things. Tina and I rewatched Hot Rod, rewatched Anchorman for the first time in probably a good 5-10 years. Showed my daughter Matilda, the most recent one, the musical one, because we've been listening to the soundtrack in the car, and she seemed to really dig that. So we watched that, and she liked that one. And rewatched The Big Sick, which is a go-to for me. I just love Kumail Nanjiani and Zoe Kazan. I think they're both brilliant, but that flick is perfect. There is not a bad moment in that movie. It just works on every level. Ray Romano is great. See, Holly Hunter, I was going to say Sissy Spacek. Jeez, I'm doing well. Holly Hunter, excellent as well. But Big Sick just continues to delight and also make me cry. But let's jump into some questions. Before we jump into some questions, I put out a poll or like some feelers the other day, and I said, hey, for episode 99, I'd love for you to tell me your favorite movies, or if not your favorite movies, hit me with some underrated movies so we can talk about them. So I didn't get a ton of results, and to be fair, it's my own fault. I put it out last minute. So I'm going to go through. We've got some suggestions, mainly from people who have been on the show, but there's one who hasn't as well. So we'll go through. I'll talk about them as best as I can. Some I've seen. I've seen all. Nope, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen all but one of them. The one I haven't. I was talking to the guest who submitted the response. I was like, oh, I've never heard of this one, but they said it's excellent, so I'm going to check it out. So thank you to everyone who submitted their favorite movies or their most underrated movies. It looks like for the most part, everyone's gone with underrated. So first up is someone who's never been on the podcast before, but he's a lovely guy. I've been going back and forth with him on Instagram quite a bit. I believe, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it or not. Oh, by the time this comes out, it'll probably have happened already. But he's doing like a little feature on the podcast on his podcast. So stick around, keep an eye out for that one. I'll shout it out once it happens because it just blew my mind that someone wanted to do a spotlight and do like a little focus on the show. So we've been going back and forth. He's been asking for photos of my collection. He's been asking for me to recommend episodes from the show to check out, which is when you're 100 episodes deep, it is tough to recommend stuff. But I've found a couple, and he just wanted to kind of pimp the Instagram page and stuff like that as well. And I did like a little voice message thing, which he didn't ask for, but I love to talk, as you know. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But the man in question, his name is Andrew Corns. He is one of the two hosts of the Revisionist Almanac podcast, which is a really great show. It's a really cool concept. I've never seen anything quite like it. Not to say there's not others out there like it, but I just haven't come across them. So what they do is they release their episodes monthly. I think they have some little like mini episodes every other week to kind of pad out the month, but they have one main show a month. And on it, they look back at a year and review the Academy Awards and the winners of that year. So the one that I've only listened to one episode so far, but it was 2014, I think it was. No, 2011. They went to the 2011 Academy Award list, checked out all the winners, and then what they do is they look at all of the movies from the year that came out. They watch as many as possible, and then they kind of make their own suggestions who they think should have been nominated, and see if the Academy Awards got it right or whether there were better movies, better performances out there, that sort of thing. Really fun show. Andrew's a lovely guy. We've been chatting quite a bit. So he recommended for underrated films, he thinks that everyone should check out Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal. 100% agree. If you've never seen Nightcrawler, it had a very hypnotic trailer when it came out. I apologize. I just realized I sound quite nasally. I'm still recovering from all the COVID and nonsense. So if I sound nasally, that's what it is. But he recommended Nightcrawler. when it came out in 2014, yeah, it had a very hypnotic trailer. I remember it annoyed the hell out of Tina. She was like, "Oh my god, it's so frustrating," um, because it was like just the same like line of dialogue on repeat, all about kind of chasing, chasing the dream, doing whatever it takes to do what you want to do. And he was like a ambulance chaser. He took photographs of like ambulance scenes and stuff. If I remember correctly, it's been a minute since I checked Nightcrawler. But that flick is really wonderful, really well made. Jake Gyllenhaal manages to walk the line of likable and unlikable very well in that one. Um, and he is a bit more of a villain, I would say, in the film in the end. Again, it's been a minute since I've watched it. The last time I watched it was probably 2014, which puts it at the 10-year anniversary. So I definitely need to check that one out. But great suggestion from Andrew from Revisionist Almanac. Once you're done listening to this episode, go check out the Revisionist Almanac. They've got a great podcast. They're doing, I think, 2005 movies for this month's podcast, if I remember correctly. And I can't wait to hear what they say about it, because that was a controversial year for sure. But lovely guy, and we'll keep an eye out for that spotlight as well. But Andrew, thank you for submitting your underrated movie. Next up for underrated movies, she's no stranger to the show. She's been on not more than anyone, but she's been on quite a lot. Maddie Schultz, good old Pee Wee herself. For her underrated film, she has suggested the classic comedy from the 90s starring Rick Mayall, Drop Dead Fred. So if you've never seen Drop Dead Fred before, it's kind of like If. For anyone who's seen If, the new film with John Krasinski and Steve Carell and Ryan Reynolds. If is all about imaginary friends. Drop Dead Fred is also about imaginary friends, but they're the most annoying, frustrating imaginary friends you could imagine. Rick Mayall plays Drop Dead Fred, who is the imaginary friend of Phoebe Cates. Classic Phoebe Cates. What a great actress. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Gremlins. She's awesome. So she plays, she's an adult woman at this point, but Drop Dead Fred was her imaginary friend when she was a child and kind of helped her out when she was going through some trauma and stuff like that. But like, he was very mischievous. So whenever something get wrong, she would blame it on Drop Dead Fred. And of course, no one can see him. So he'd always get blamed on, like she would blame it on him, but they thought she was kind of crazy. And then when things start to turn south in her adult life, he returns and chaos ensues. It's a chaotic movie. They actually reviewed it on How Did This Get Made, and I remember the panel was split. Some people loved the movie and some people hated it. It's a weird movie. It's marketed as a kids' film, but it's really not a kids' film. But it is excellent. It's chaotic and silly and fun. And I never really hear people talk about this movie anymore. So for Maddie Schultz to bring that up, good on you, Mads. Bringing up Drop Dead Fred. Fair warning, it's weird, but so worth your time. Our next underrated film, they're all underrated. No one's told me their favorite film. So next underrated film comes from Gabby. We haven't had Gabby on the show in a minute. It's been a little while, but she is on episode 100. I just recorded with her last night. And her underrated film is Master of Disguise. Now, I saw Master of Disguise in theaters with my brother and sister and my aunt. It was right after my parents divorced. And other family members started kind of getting involved with taking care of us. It wasn't a long-term thing, but they, like, my aunts would kind of help out a little bit every now and then. And one of my aunts took me to see Master of Disguise. And I think it's the first time where I went to a movie and I was like, oh, movies can be not good. And so 2002, I would have been 14, but I didn't hate it, and I still don't hate it. But like, I remember watching and being like, oh, this doesn't play the way movies normally play. I don't know what it was. I just could tell it was different to other movies. It was very like juvenile humor. It's got Dana Carvey, who's really good in it. Gabby has said that it's low rated but hilarious, and she's absolutely right. Like, it is, I would put it almost on level with Drop Dead Fred. Like, it's just so, it's another film that How Did This Get Made did, actually, and they were baffled by the movie. It's strange. It makes no sense. It's very like potty humor, but it is funny, man. Like, it's so weird. Dana Carvey plays I can't remember the character's main character's first name, but his last name is Disguisey. They're all the Disguiseys. Like, that's their Italian name. Even though I don't think any of the actors are Italian, they play an Italian family called the Disguiseys, and they all have this power to become a master of disguise. And he like turns into like a turtle man. He turns into like an aristocrat. I don't know. Like, it's meant to be kind of like a spy film, I think. Very bizarre, but it's funny. Like, it's dumb and it's funny. And Gabby is 100% right in saying that it's underrated and hilarious, because it totally is. Next up was a flick from a guy who I was surprised he made this decision, not because the movie is not good. The movie's excellent. It's a great recommendation. I just never thought it'd be his kind of thing. But my buddy Josh, obviously, he's come on and he's blown me away with his lists a few times. There's been things that have shocked me. Some things I found, I definitely knew. Like when he brought Waterworld to the Apocalypse thing, I was like, I was just expecting Waterworld to be all five of these films, to be honest, because I know he loves that movie. But his recommendation is the movie Frank, starring Michael Fassbender. If you've never seen Frank, it's a really unusual film. It's based on a real guy. I can't remember the guy's name. I'm trying to see. I've got my Blu-ray in front of me right now. But it's based on a pop band from like the 80s or 90s, if I remember correctly. And the lead singer wore a paper mache head the whole time. And he never took it off on stage. Apparently, he never took it off around his bandmates either. And it's kind of the story of this band and their eccentric lead singer, Frank. It's really good. Really good flick. It's got Donald Gleason in it, Scoot McNairy, Maggie Gyllenhaal. It's bizarre. Again, like the word bizarre has come up a couple of times. It's excellent. It's really well made. It's really compelling, and you just can't look away from the screen. It's a really great drama, but it is unusual. And yeah, I just never would have expected Josh to suggest a film like that because it's very artsy as well. I know he's an artist, but this is like artsy film stuff, which can be very kind of experimental and weird. But solid recommendation from Josh. Next up is the only film I hadn't heard of. Apparently, I should look up what he said, actually. Give me a second. Let me see what he actually said about the movie so I'm not getting it wrong. Where is he? Good old Kyle Poppet. Kyle was on the show earlier this year as a first-time guest. I met him originally on the We Love Horror podcast with Michael, my friend Michael. And great guy, such a sweetheart. He was, he talked about the time he met Quentin Tarantino. He talked about the time that he worked with, or he still works with, Wayne Brady on Let's Make a Deal. He'd worked with Elizabeth Banks. Just like an absolute sweetheart of a guy. So very happy to see him pop a suggestion here. So he recommended a movie called Stay Alive. I've never heard of it, but it's a horror movie about a killer video game. So I haven't even looked it up yet. I do apologize, Kyle. It's been a hell of a week. But I will look that flick up. And once I get a chance, hopefully I'll be able to pick it up. I'm hoping that I'll be able to pick that one up soon. And then I'll watch it and I'll give my review of it. But it's got my name all over it. That sounds awesome. And then my last suggestion for underrated films, before we jump into all of your questions today for episode 99, comes from good old Jess Brown. It's been a minute since she's been on the show as well, but she's kind of our go-to horror chick, horror girl. I don't know if that's, can we say horror chick in 2024? Surely we can. I don't think she would decline that label. I think she'd be okay with it. But what's really funny is when she suggested the movie I'm about to talk about, I was like, oh, great choice. That's a really good movie. And she's like, have you seen it? And I was like, I'm pretty sure I was the one who recommended it for you. And I was when in the pandemic, and I think I talked about this on an episode she appeared on, but during the pandemic when we were reconnecting, she was talking about how she loved horror films. She wanted some recommendations. So I wrote her a huge document of films. And the first film I recommended was Eden Lake, which is her underrated film. And she watched it the next day and she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it is. It's another Michael Fassbender film. It's early Michael Fassbender before he kind of blew up. So it's him and Kelly Riley, and they play this married couple or engaged couple. I can't remember if they're married or not. That's not really incidental to the plot. But they're going on a vacation in the the UK countryside or that sort of thing, kind of out in the woods and stuff like that. And they happen across like a group of rough teens, I would say, led by Jack O'Connell, who's always done well in those sorts of roles. Back when he played Cook on Skins, in particular. And it just starts as kind of mild harassment, them kind of being catcalled by these boys and stuff like that. And then it becomes quite deadly. And it's very dark, very brutal. And the ending is, I wouldn't say it's quite as shocking as The Mist, but I would put it on the same level. The ending is not what you expect at all. And it's dark. And I think Nick Owen watched it. We were talking about underrated films. It would have been last year or maybe the end of our first year on the podcast. And he watched it based on my recommendation. He was like, boy, that was grim. And I'm like, yeah, I would not have recommended that to good old Nick Owen. He's too cheery and positive for a movie like Eden Lake. But those are our underrated films. Thank you, everyone, for submitting recommendations. Nightcrawler, Drop Dead Fred, Master of Disguise, Frank, Stay Alive, and Eden Lake. I can talk highly of all of them. Well, maybe not highly. Master of Disguise I can't talk highly about, but it is funny. But I can definitely talk positively about all of them, except for Stay Alive, because I haven't seen that. But go check them out. And once I've seen Stay Alive, I'm sure I'll give it a glowing recommendation as well. But thank you, everyone, for submitting your recommendations for underrated films. But let's get into some questions. So what I might do is go through the questions from people we know first, and then wrap up with the anonymous ones, and then we'll get out of here. It won't be a particularly long episode, I don't think, but we'll just go through. It depends how long. It might take me a while to answer these questions because, as you know, I love to talk. I never used to do solo shows, and now I do them all the time, and I fill an hour talking to myself, which is insane. So first of all, Catherine, my friend Catherine, she hasn't been on the show yet. We are talking about getting her on the podcast. Hopefully, my first Canadian guest. But she's wonderful, really fun, and loves her movies, loves her video games. She's very cool. We've been trying to get her on the show for a while, but you know how life is. But Catherine asks, "What's one thing you'd change about your favorite movies if you had the power to?" And this is a fascinating question because I've thought about it a little bit, kind of on and off since she asked it a couple of weeks ago. And my instinct is that I wouldn't change anything. Like what would I change about Clerks? Well, Clerks is the movie that changed my life. And I talked about Clerks in last week's episode, the mental health episode. And if I had made any changes to Clerks, I feel like it would diminish what it means to me. So I guess the answer is nothing for Clerks. If I look at Hot Fuzz again, I'd have to say nothing because I think I always talk about Hot Fuzz being a mathematically perfect film. So nothing. Oh no, we're off to a bad start. Sorry, Catherine. What would I change about Kill Bill? Nothing. Kill Bill's perfect. Midsommar, nothing. Midsommar's perfect. Back to the Future. I guess my favorite movies, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything about them. I guess I would make them more available. I'd make more people aware of them. I think most people are aware of most of those films. I think Clerks is the only kind of underdog on that list. I think my list isn't like obscure stuff. My top 5 favorite films are pretty popular movies. I don't think there's really anything on there people haven't heard of except for maybe Clerks. So I guess I wouldn't really change anything, which is I guess is a really not fun answer for the Q&A. I'm like, oh, I'll do Q&A, I'll answer every question, and my answer is nothing. But I don't think I'd change anything about any movie. I think the beauty of the art form is that it comes out exactly most of the time, not always. It comes out, at the time of when the director intends it to, the kind of film they want to tell, and then it just is what it is for eternity. I guess if anything, with Kill Bill, I would probably change it to the whole bloody affair. I've never seen that before, but there is one long cut of it that Quentin Tarantino put together. He screened in his cinema. I don't think it's ever been released physically, but I would watch it as the whole bloody affair. That would be the change I'd make. Don't make me change discs, which is just kind of building on my laziness. Don't make me change discs. Give me one disc with all of it on, just like with Grindhouse. So that would be a change I would make to Kill Bill, if it improves the experience. For the rest of them, I would say if those are the absolute versions of those films the directors intended them to be, then I don't need to change them. But if the director intended more, if there's a director's cut out of each of them, I'd watch it. There is no director's cut of Clerks. The theatrical cut is the director's cut. Hot Fuzz, I believe, is exactly what Edgar Wright wanted it to be. Midsommar, the physical release is the director's cut. That's the only version available, and it's excellent. So that's really good. And Back to the Future, I don't believe there's a director's cut. I would be interested in seeing the Eric Stoltz version before Michael J. Fox was cast, but I wouldn't change it to that. So, Catherine, it's a really good question. It's an awesome question. I just don't have a good answer, so I do apologize. My answer is I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change any of the movies, as long as that unless it's like a Justice League thing where the director's vision was taken away from them. So that would be the exception. The next question comes from a guy on Instagram called This Is Halloween 89. His username changed a little bit. I honestly can't remember. Don't know his first name, and also I can't remember. I don't know his first name. He's been going through a bit of a tough time online lately. I don't know the full story, but I think he's been suffering some bullying. I think some people have been kind of impersonating him online and making it look like he's saying things he's not saying. I'm not sure of the full story, but I get the vibe that, again, without knowing the guy, I get the vibe he's kind of been receiving some flack that maybe is unjust. So this is Halloween '89. If you're listening to this, your posts always seem pretty friendly to me. I hope you get through all the nonsense that's going on. And just be nice to everyone. Just leave people alone. Like, I don't know. But he asks, what got you into collecting movies? What got me into collecting movies? I don't know why I started collecting movies. I don't know. All I know is that when I was 13, for my 13th birthday, I've been saving money. My parents gave me the rest of the money. I bought a PlayStation 2. I'd never had a PlayStation before in my life. We'd always been a Nintendo family. Still are. Still are. My daughter will be raised as a Nintendo kid. But the PS2 was such a revolutionary console. Like, everyone was talking about it, and had a built-in DVD player. And we were video store kids. We used to go to the video store all the time. I was like, oh, it would be great if I had the PlayStation 2, because then I could play PlayStation games. But then also, when we go to the video store, we can get DVDs, because we didn't have a DVD player. This was like at the beginning of DVD players, maybe a couple of years after DVD players had kind of had been launched. So I was like, this would be great. And then it was also around the time EB Games opened in Australia, except it wasn't called EB Games back then. It was called Electronics Boutique. That's what the EB stands for. So if you're old enough to remember, like me, you never used to be called EB Games. It was called Electronics Boutique. And they were really interesting because they had video games. They had, I think they had manga, like the manga books, and they had movies as well. It was mainly anime, but they did have some movies as well. And I remember my very first 2 DVDs I ever bought with my own money. I went to Electronics Boutique at Airport West, and I bought for $30 each. It's because DVDs retailed at $30 each when they first came out. The Matrix and Evolution. They were my first 2 DVDs. And once I bought them, I was just like, I just like having them. I just like having them, We collect games. Why can't I collect movies? Um, and I remember, I think I've talked about this in the past on the podcast as well, but I remember one weekend, there were a couple of weekends where after coming back from my mum's house after my parents split, I would be like hanging out with my dad and he'd be like, you buy any movies this weekend? I'd be like, yeah. And he goes, you need to stop buying movies. You need to start saving for a car. Which was good advice. But if you've seen any photos of Film Snob HQ, if you've seen any videos, you'll know I never stopped collecting movies. I just like having them. And I watch all of them, so it's not like I buy them and then nothing happens to them. There was a period of time where I was buying a lot, not watching a lot, and I had to play catch up. Last year was a big year of catch up, but I can't tell you. It's just nice having something tangible. I like looking at the box art. It reminds me. I guess what I've done is I've turned my collection into my very own video store. My favorite place in the world as a kid was the video store. Going there with my parents, looking at the clamshell video cases, looking at the pictures, looking at the spines, sneaking into the horror section, trying not to get scared of the images in there. I loved all that. So I've just kind of turned my personal space into my very own video store. I've talked about working in a video store for a couple of years. I loved that as well. So I guess in a way, it's just about recapturing that part of my life. But I guess that's why I collect. But also, like, collecting movies means that you always have them. Like when the pandemic began and everyone's internet started failing because everyone was streaming at the same time, I didn't have that problem. I was like, all right, let's go to the shelf and I'll pick something off. But I don't know. It just makes me happy. That's why. What got me into collecting? Having a PlayStation 2 and knowing I could start having my own movies in my bedroom. That was part of it. And why do I keep doing it? Just makes me happy. But great question. Thank you. This is Halloween '89 for your question, and I hope you're doing okay, mate. Alrighty. This is a very introspective question, and it's no surprise. It comes from the boys at Movie Boners. I think it might have been Jake who asked this question, but it could have been both him and Dustin. But it feels like a Jake question. Jake, if you listen to Movie Boners, like this, when you hear, you'll be like, yeah, that's a Jake question. And the boys from Movie Boners ask, what's a movie you wished you liked more than you do? What a great question. Because you guys know I'm pretty honest about stuff. I like pretty much everything. There's nothing I hate. But there are definitely movies where I probably don't enjoy as much as I wish. There are a couple. I would put both Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 on there. I wish I liked them more than I do. They're fine to me. They're certainly not bad movies. I went to Blade Runner 2049 in theaters, And visually it's stunning. Like it's a technical masterpiece. But just like Dune, I think high concept sci-fi is just beyond me. I wish I liked it more. I wish I could be in that like party of everyone else being like, "This is amazing! How entertaining!" It just, yeah, it didn't do it for me as much as it seems to for everyone else. You could throw Citizen Kane on there. I don't think Citizen Kane is a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. But last week I was talking about it when I mentioned To Kill a Mockingbird. Like if I'm gonna watch an old movie that's black and white and from between the 40s and the 70s, I'm probably gonna watch now To Kill a Mockingbird, 12 Angry Men, um, Casablanca, Wizard of Oz. I feel like those are all more entertaining than Citizen Kane. But again, I'm not saying Citizen Kane's a bad movie. It just I wish I liked it as much as everyone else seems to like it. Like everyone's always putting it at the number one of their list, and it's just like I just don't respond to it that way. So I guess those ones. But probably like more like Citizen Kane is kind of a jokey, not a joke answer, but that's kind of like a more grounded, like broader answer. But like Blade Runner 2049 and Blade Runner, I wish I liked them more. I wish I liked Dune more. Those ones I wish I enjoyed. Like, and it's not because the movies are bad, because they're popular movies. They just don't click with me. Hellraiser, put Hellraiser on there as well. I've talked about it a few times now. I think I spoke about it with Sam Tennell. I definitely spoke about it with Michael. People love Hellraiser. I think all the visuals are cool. I just don't get it. I wish I did. I really wish I did. I just don't get it. So I guess those are some movies I wished I liked more than I do. Next up is an author. He is a regular feature on Midnight Terrors and the new co-host of Midnight Terrors as well, I believe. R. Jacob Honeybrook. I've never met him personally. We've never really interacted, but he's very funny. If you've ever listened to him on Midnight Terrors, the guy is so funny. Some of the stuff he comes up with has me in stitches, man. He's really funny, and knows his movies, like a really big movie fan. I'm hoping I'll get to meet him soon. Me and the boys from Midnight Terror has been trying to organize a catch up in a while. We're trying to get them back on my show, me back on their show, and now that Roy, I keep calling him R Jacob, but his real name is Roy. Now that Roy's a co-host, I'd love to meet him and hopefully talk some movies with him as well. He seems like a cool guy. But he asks, you could only pick 3 Tarantino movies to watch for the rest of your life. Which do you choose? This is actually a pretty easy question for me. Kill Bill, and we make part 1 and 2, one whole film because it is one whole film. So Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair is one of them. The next one is Inglourious Bastards. And the last one would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Probably probably Django. I reckon Django. The third one for me is honestly ancillary. It could be any of them. As long as I've got Kill Bill and I've got Inglourious Bastards, those are my two favorite Tarantino films for sure. So I guess maybe Django would be a good fit there. I rewatched it last year and I enjoyed it. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it more than the first time I did. So maybe Django, but definitely Kill Bill, definitely Inglourious Bastards. I like Reservoir Dogs. I like Pulp Fiction. I like Jackie Brown. I like all of his stuff, but these be the films that connect with me. Very cool question from Roy. I'm moving through these questions way quicker than I should. I'm going to slow right down. No, that's totally fine. Next up from Jess Brown. So she submitted an underrated film and she's asked some questions, a couple of questions. Her first question is, who's my favorite villain of all time? And that's a tough one. Because also, like, when she says villain, Jess, do you mean horror villain? Do you mean just general movie villain? It's quite tough. Like, the easy answer is like Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. Like, he's a cool villain, but I haven't seen that movie in like 10 years. So I can't say like, oh, he's brilliant. Like he is, but I don't remember the film very well. I feel like Agent Smith from The Matrix is a really good villain, really cool villain. I like him a lot. Thanos, obviously, excellent, really good villain as well. Heath Ledger's Joker comes to mind, great villain. I'm just looking at my collection at the moment. I'm trying to see if I can find anything else. I don't know if it counts because it's a monster, but the Xenomorph in Alien, like that's a cool villain. I guess he doesn't really have any motivation other than to feed. So Does he? Is that what the aliens are doing in Alien? Oh my goodness, I haven't. Well, they're reproducing. They're furthering their species, but they're not like killing. I don't think they're killing for pleasure. I gotta watch Alien again. Um, I don't think there's any villains in my top 5 favorite films of all time that I would consider like my favorite villain. I'm not really watching those films for the villains. It's more for the hero's journey. Um, Let me have a look and see if anyone else pops up while I look at my collection. I'm sure this is riveting to listen to as a middle-aged man looks over his array of Blu-rays. Um, oh my god, why did I buy so many movies, guys? Um, yeah, Heath Ledger's Joker. And like, I know these aren't like clever answers or original answers. These are just the answers I have. Um, oh, I'll tell you who's really good is Stanley Tucci in The Lovely Bones. I just watched that. He's a well, I guess favorite. I don't like him, but it's a really great performance and it's a strong villain. I think Steppenwolf in Zack Snyder's Justice League is really good. Um, is he a top tier villain? No, but like there's definitely some great improvement in there. I think Zod in Man of Steel is a really good villain because it's so personal to him. Like it's not originally like the whole idea. He's motivated by the fact that his sole purpose in life is to keep the species going, and when Kal-El ruins that for him, he just makes it his mission to hurt Kal in every way possible. So that's kind of cool. Um, oh my goodness, what's his name? Who plays Moon Knight? Oscar Isaac. Um, Oscar Isaac in Ex Machina is really good. Obviously, Pazuzu in The Exorcist, really cool villain. I don't know. There's quite a few villains. What say you, Jess? Do you agree with my villains? Loki, obviously, quite good. He's not really a villain anymore. In fact, some would say he's gone the full 180 degrees, but especially in Avengers and the subsequent films, really cool as well. Jess also asked, this is an interesting one. This is more about the podcasts. A lot of questions about movies so far. But this one's about the podcast itself, and she's asking if I'm thinking about making more merchandise, in particular coffee mugs. We were talking about this the other day. She actually sent me a voice message. She's like, "I think you should get coffee mugs because I drink from my coffee mug every day, and I would buy an I was a teenage film snob coffee mug." Um, the short answer is yeah, of course. We've definitely thought about more. Well, I've thought about more merchandise. I've got a T-shirt up there right now. I really like the T-shirt. If you haven't got the T-shirt, like I know I plug it pretty regularly. But like all plugging aside, I love the artwork Josh came up with. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the podcast before, but um, or if we talked about it in too much detail. But when I asked Josh in kind of the lead up to episode 50, like, hey, I know you're really busy with Junklands and stuff, but would you mind designing a logo for the podcast? Like I'm just using something I made on an app, and like everything I did up until that point was homemade. Like the podcast is very much homemade. I use Zoom. Actually I pay for Zoom now, but it's free software at the time. Most of my software is free that came stock standard on the laptop. The logo I just made with an app. Like everything's done very homemade. But in the lead up to episode 50, I'd be like, it'd be cool to celebrate episode 50 with a proper logo. Would you mind designing something? And Josh was like, yeah, what do you want? And I was like, that's the thing. I don't know what I want. So how do you feel about having full creative control over that? And I'm not sure. We should probably ask Josh. I think he had somewhat mixed feelings about it, not because he didn't like creative control, but with no guidance whatsoever, it can be a little bit frustrating. So he was sending me design after he sent me heaps of stuff. There's so many cool designs. One of my favorite designs he chose was this popcorn bucket thing, which we might use at some point. But ultimately, we decided against it. I actually asked him for a lot of advice on it because he does a lot of branding with his company. And the popcorn one I was leaning into for the longest time, and he was like, "Look, it's cool, but it's not really the tone of your show." Like, and I was like, "What do you mean? Like, we eat popcorn?" But he was absolutely right. Um, And then when he submitted the first logo, I was really unsure about it. And not that I didn't like it. I think I talked about this with Josh as well. I just like it's bright yellow and it's so I think there was a lot of there were a lot of versions of the logo where he was wearing a hat. I can't remember if he's wearing a hat now. I have to look it up again. You'd think I would know. Yeah, he's not wearing a hat anymore. I think the hat threw me off a little bit because I was like, is it meant to be me? And Josh was like, no, that's the teenage film snob. I'm like, oh, yes, that makes sense. Um, but obviously, I love the logo. I'm slapping it on everything I can. But as, as soon as we had the logo, I'm like, right, we have to do a t-shirt. And even if I'm the only person who buys a t-shirt, we need a t-shirt for the podcast. So at episode 50, we launched the t-shirt. And we've had like some sales, and it was never created to make money. I made it the lowest price point possible because I wanted people who liked the show not to have to spend, half their paycheck on a t-shirt for a very low rent podcast. Um, but the goal has always been to create more merchandise, but I want to create merchandise that makes sense. So that's why you haven't seen me rush out and make half a dozen t-shirts and hats and not wine coolers, like beer cozies and key rings and stuff like that. I could go down that route, and I'm not begrudging anyone who does it. I get it. Like, I know there are plenty of podcasts out there that have like mouse pads and stuff like that. So it's not really my jam. I'm not like, I want to do cool merchandise. Like, I've been toying with the idea. I'll say it out loud because nothing's been confirmed, but I've been toying with the idea of selling the script for episode 100. I wrote a script. We're doing a radio play. Part of me kind of thinks, oh, it'd be cool to sell it in print, so people who like the episode can kind of have a memento for episode 100. But I haven't committed to anything. So the short answer to your question, Jess, is yeah, I am thinking about making more merchandise, but I haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet. Coffee mugs, I don't know, maybe. I feel like I've gone on record time and time again saying I'm not a big drinker of hot drinks. So I'd feel like a hypocrite being like, hey, buy this thing that I don't use. But at the same time, I'm a realist enough to know that I'm in the minority, and most people listening to the show probably do drink hot drinks, so they would get a use out of it even if I don't. But maybe it's a good idea. Thank you for the suggestion for coffee mugs. I'll keep thinking about it. And I don't imagine we'll see any merchandise out in 2024. The only merchandise I imagine we'll keep selling is the t-shirt. So if you want a t-shirt, you can go and get one of those from my link tree or go to TeePublic. And yeah, it's like 20% off your first purchase with TeePublic. So all that good stuff. But otherwise, there's no plans. The second half of this year is going to be insane. You're going to hear more about that in episode 101. But with the insanity of the year coming up, unlikely we'll do more merch until next year. But we're always thinking about it. So thank you for the question. I can't believe that question got more screen time than questions about movies. Alrighty, Kyle. Kyle also submitted a question. So not only did he submit an excellent movie that I haven't seen as an underrated classic, but he's also submitted a question. And his question is, what actress do I think should take a stab, pun intended, at starring in a horror movie as a scream queen? And he wants me to suggest someone that hasn't done it yet. Oh, well, my go-to is Imogen Poots, but she was in Fright Night and Black Christmas, so I guess it's not her. But I love Imogen Poots; she's amazing. Put her in more things. Also, she has a cartoon page on Instagram now. She draws naked women like telling jokes and stuff, so it's pretty funny. It's wacky stuff, but I shouted it out because I'm all about Poots, as I said on Midnight Terrors. Who do I think should be a scream queen that hasn't had a stab at it yet? Let me have a think. I'm going to take very liberal interpretation of Scream Queen. I'm just going to say horror in general. I could, I suppose, be specific and go slasher, but I don't think you have to be in slasher to be a Scream Queen. I think you can Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't really a slasher. I'm sure people are going to hate me for saying that, but there's not too much slashing going on in that movie. Who do I think should go in? Has Lily James done horror yet? I love Lily James. Lily James is amazing. Let's see if Lily James has done a movie in horror. I feel like I'd be aware of it if she had. Let's see, Lily James. Have you done anything? Again, she was in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I would say that's barely a slasher, barely a horror movie. I'm gonna say Lily James. She's excellent. I loved her in Baby Driver. I liked her in The Iron Claw as well. She's really good. So let's say Lily James is my first choice. Let's also go with Zoe Kazan. Unlike Cliché Horror, she seems to really like doing these indie dramedies, but I'd like to see her in a horror film. I think she could do it justice. Rachel Sennett did Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Ayo Edebiri from Bottoms, and she's also in The Bear. I don't think she's done anything horror. She's great. She must have done something in horror. She has. I feel like she's done terrified face before, if that makes sense. Let's have a look. She was April O'Neil in Ninja Turtles. Good on her. Let's have a look. Maybe she hasn't done. There's a lot of voice work. Listen to a man browse silently through in IMDb. No, so Ayo Edebiri, I'm gonna say, I think she'd do a really good scream. I feel like she's got it in her. So Ayo Edebiri, Lily James for sure, Zoe Kazan, um, who else? I'm sure like there's a million wonderful actresses that I'm missing. Um, who else can we go with? Hmm. This sure is riveting. Has Emma Stone done horror? And Poor Things doesn't count because I know a lot of people don't like that movie and they consider it horrific. But has Emma Stone done horror? I don't think she has. Oh, The Curse. Is The Curse kind of horrific? No, it's a thriller. Cool. Oh, she did Zombieland. Oh, good one, James. So not Emma Stone either. Um, I don't think Alicia Vikander has done horror. Ex Machina comes close, but I don't like. I wouldn't count that as a horror. Um, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. No. So let's go Alicia Vikander, Ayo Edebiri, Lily James, Zoe Kazan, and we need to find one more. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. You think that's crazy? I'm a grown man talking to myself in a garage. Um, the problem with my collection of movies is that they're all horror movies. Oh man, this is really tough. Kyle Poppert. I mean, look, the next question is even tougher. Uh, what about Emily Browning? Has she done horror? I don't think Emily Browning has done horror. I'm not going to Google it. I'm just going to go with Emily Browning. So Emily Browning, Ayo Edebiri, Zoe Kazan, Lily James, and Alicia Vikander. I think the reason why I struggle so much is because there's so many wonderful women in horror already. But let's go with them. And if any of them are on horror already, I apologize. And the last question from someone we know before we head into the anonymous pile comes from Brian Rupert from Reviewing History. If you haven't listened to Reviewing History, check it out, man. Brian Rupert's such a lovely guy. He's so funny. He was on my podcast last year promoting their Christmas special, which was excellent. I had a good time listening to their Christmas special. Very Tell 'em Steve Dave like, which is a podcast that I've loved for over a decade. And he did a great job trying to. He said his goal was to make a Tell 'em Steve Dave episode, and I think he knocked it out of the park. So his question is the top 5 movies with a number below 99 in the title. I really like that. He was like, it's episode 99. Let's do a question with a number below 99 in the title. I'm going to try and avoid just doing sequels with numbers in them. So, like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, that sort of thing. I'm going to really try, but I will need to look at my collection while I do it because um, I will struggle. So let's have a bit of a look. You have to listen to me kind of mull things over. Oh, 50-50, that's really good. I like 50-50. I'm not saying it's in there yet, but maybe. This was, I was not planning on walking on the recording of this week's episode. Oh, 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's a really good, okay, 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men is my first one under 99. 12 Angry Men is excellent. If you haven't seen it, it's really good. What else do we have? I'm really trying to avoid, yeah, as I said, just sequels as being the movie with the number in the title. 7. How did I forget 7? Okay, 12 Angry Men, 7. Let's go 21 Jump Street. I really like 21 Jump Street. I think that's really funny. Oh boy. Does Una count? I know technically Uno is the number and it's Italian, but Una is really good. I'm not going to count Una. Una's wonderful. It's dark. It's a tough watch, but Una's excellent. So we've got 12 Angry Men. We've got 7. We've got 21 Jump Street. It's Brian Rupert. You with your difficult questions. 28 Days Later. There we go. 28 Days Later. 12 Angry Men. 7. And I've already forgotten the 21 Jump Street. And let's go 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think 10 Cloverfield Lane's excellent as well. I don't know if they're my top 5 because I'm making it up on the spot, but I think those are all very good. Those are all really good movies with numbers under 99 in their title. But that was a really good question, Brian. I'm just tired. But I thought it was an excellent question. I hope those answers are satisfying. But I think that's a pretty good batch. I love all of those movies. I think they're all really good. Alrighty, so now that we've gone through the questions from people who gave their names, we're going to go hit up the anonymous ones. Now, I used NGL, which is not going to lie, which is riddled with bots. So some of the questions that have come through, I'm certain were not from anyone I know. But the ones I didn't think were, or the ones I were pretty sure was bots, I've eliminated ones that I thought maybe could have been people following, I've kept in. Some of the questions are deliberately silly. But that's totally fine. So the first question, they ask, how many kids do I want to have? The answer's 2. The answer's always been 2. This is not a surprise. This is not a secret. I have one more, it would be fine. I think I've talked about this before, but after Zoe was born, Tina and I used to joke, do we need more than one? Like, one's great, like she's awesome. Do we need to roll the dice and, have a second child that, is particularly difficult? But even through all that, even through all those jokes, and I've always wanted to. And I would like another little girl. I'd like another daughter. If I had a son, I'd have no problem with that. I'd love to have a son as well, but I think I would like 2 daughters. I think it'd be nice to have 2 daughters. What would you say if I asked you on a date? I knew this was a bot, but in the rare occasion that it was a real person, what would I say if you asked me on a date? I'd say I'm married, bro. You missed your chance. You missed your chance to hang out in Film Snob HQ and watch horrible movies with me all the time. No, I think that was a bot. But if it wasn't, hey. This next question, I don't know who it was. I've got a strong feeling who it was, but I won't say it out loud because if it wasn't them, then I'll embarrass them. They want me to tell them how big I think Falcor's red rocket is. I assume you're talking about Falcor's wiener. I don't know, like how big are Falcor's hands? I would say that's how big. Is that the rule? Is the hand or the foot? I can't remember. I think it's the foot. How big are Falcor's feet? You go from heel to toe of Falcor. That's how big his wiener is. Done and dusted. If I could swap David Schwimmer and Dan Aykroyd in any movie or TV roles, what would they be? I have seen shockingly little of David Schwimmer. I know he's in Friends, but I really haven't seen much of his stuff. Like, I'm sure he's done stuff other than Friends. He was in. No, he wasn't. I was about to say he was in American Horror Story, but it was the guy that looks like him. Oh my goodness, who is it? Who's in? You guys are gonna get angry at me. American Horror Story. I'm looking it up now. And I spelled it wrong as well, which is really good. I'm going to look up American Horror Story to tell you a guy who looks like David Schwimmer is in the show. And the guy I'm thinking of is Dylan McDermott, which is not David Schwimmer. What would I guess I'd have to put Dan Aykroyd in Friends because I don't know anything else of David Schwimmer's that I've seen. I'm sure I have, but I can't think of anything. So if we're going to swap TVs, let's put David Schwimmer in Soul Man. Soul Man was a sitcom in the late 90s, early 2000s. Dan Aykroyd played a preacher, a single father with like 3 kids. It's like one of those like dad comedies. It was really fun. I loved it as a kid. I loved the Blues Brothers. Just to get to hear him sing kind of blues soul music as a preacher felt like a weird spiritual sequel. Um, so I swapped them around. Put David Schwimmer in Soul Man. Put Dan Aykroyd in Friends. I'm probably not watching either of them, but that's what we'll do. Um, how likely would a Gilmore Girls movie be made now? I really like the show. This is what they said. I have no inside goss into Hollywood, my man. I don't know. Did they do a movie, or was it just like a mini series, a day in the life? Think it's probably pretty unlikely that they do Girls now because that show wrapped up like 10 years ago, and even the anniversary feels like it was almost 10 years ago. So I just look, never say never. No, maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll kickstart it or something, but I don't think it's that likely. Um, this next one was a really cool question. I like it quite a bit. What movie has the worst product placement? I can't think of any examples of product placement in film. Like I know it happens for sure. Um, like my immediate answer is Wayne's World because they have that wonderful segment where they're deliberately doing product placement. Uh, the only like kind of glaringly obvious example of product placement I could think of was when I worked when I was bartending. We used to play music videos, and there was a Jessie J video, and in every shot of the video there was a bottle of vitamin water. But in movies, I can't think of. Like again, I'm sure there are for sure. I just can't. Oh, you know what? Let's say Krispy Kreme in Power Rangers. That was insane. I like that Power Rangers movie quite a bit. Like it's very camp and funny, and reminds me of my childhood. But like the whole third act is hinged on the Krispy Kreme donut shop. Like that's pretty glaringly obvious product placement. So let's say that one. That was weird. If you could wear a movie character's outfit on Wear What You Like Wednesday, not a holiday I'm familiar with, but I'm down with it. What would it be? Um, well, look, I'm heavy. I'm not. I'm a bigger dude, so nothing that superheroes are wearing. I wore a bat suit once for a video for the guys at Movie Boners, and that wasn't super uncomfortable, but I wouldn't be walking around in public in it. Maybe like dress like Marty McFly. That's kind of a fun costume. That's kind of a fun outfit. I could dress like Marty McFly. Um, who else could I dress like? Dante. Just put on a plaid shirt and some Doc Martens. These aren't very exciting answers. What's an exciting answer? What's a cool costume that I could wear? I think Marty McFly is a pretty cool idea. I think dressing like him is pretty cool. Like it definitely isn't you know, it's not that unusual. It would look a little bit dated now in 2024, but I think it's a pretty cool costume. I guess like, if I want to go pipe dream, like be all end all, we could go with like the Iron Man suit from Avengers Infinity War and Endgame because it was nanites or nanobots, so it could just build around me. I would look like a tubby Iron Man. Um, but I don't know. I always liked Marty McFly's outfit. I think that's cool. So that's probably my go-to. Or like the May Queen from Midsommar. I'm kidding. I don't need to wear all those flowers in my hair. Um, what movie needs to be made? All movies. Not even kidding. All movies need to be made. If someone has an idea for a movie, make it. Make as many movies as you can. Keep making them. There is no limited answer to this question. Keep making movies, as many as you want. All movies deserve to be made. Let's get them made. As long as they're not hurting people. Like, don't make horrible, nasty things that are going to hurt people. And if you are, just be aware it's going to be a limited audience. So I'll probably still watch it, but all movies need to be made. If you had to cast Kelsey Grammer as an Avenger, who would it be? This is a great question. It feels like a Josh question, but I don't know who asked this one. It could also be a Maddie question. I think Kelsey Grammer has already had the perfect casting. I know he's not an Avenger, but Beast. Spoiler alert for the end of the Marvels. Like that was a great cameo, and he was Beast in X-Men 3 and stuff like that. But if we're going strictly Avengers, like MCU Avengers, we're not going X-Men. I think there's room for him to be Bruce Banner. I think Kelsey Grammer is Bruce Banner. Maybe not current, maybe he wouldn't be like present day Bruce Banner. Maybe like in the 90s he could have done it. But seeing him as or even maybe even Reed Richards. Like I don't know if he's like the perfect look for Mr. Fantastic, but I don't know. I like him doing sciencey things. He's got that kind of voice that makes me want to. I'm like, yeah, he's a scientist for sure. Well, I think Bruce Banner, like, I mean, Beast is such perfect casting. That's spot on for me. But if not, I think, yeah, I think Bruce Banner was a good call for Kelsey Grammer. If Joe if Joe Pesci did the voice of a fifth Ninja Turtle, what would their name be? Um, I don't know. What's an Italian Renaissance artist that hasn't been named a Ninja Turtle? I know this isn't a very creative answer. I don't know. What's his name? Just call him Harry, and he can be Harry from Home Alone. Um, or what was his name? Hang on, let me look up the Pesh, Joe Pesh, as they call him, Joey Pesh. Um, oh, Vinny. It's got to be Vinny. I was gonna go with something from Goodfellas, but like my cousin Vinny is probably my favorite Joe Pesci performance of all time. Call him Vinny. He's the he's the Ninja Turtle. Vinny. He practices law. He's got a hot New Jersey girlfriend. That's it. Yeah, that's his name. It's literally just Vinny from my cousin Vinny, but as a turtle. Um, what would Batman's favorite meal and drink be? Well, it's drive-through. We learned that in Batman and Robin, or Batman Forever. I can't remember which one it was now. In one of those sequels in the Tim Burton series that were done by Joel Schumacher. Drive-through is Batman's favorite meal. Um, but I don't know, probably like a protein shake. Seems pretty, seems pretty healthy. It's not a fun answer. But I don't know. I just don't see him eating a lot of junk food. I don't see him eating. I don't like Batman is not kind to himself, so he's not treating himself with. I mean, he's kind to himself in that his body is a temple and it's in perfect condition. But I don't think he's ever giving himself like a cheat day or a snack day or anything like that. So it's probably really boring. It's probably like chicken and asparagus and rice, like what Hugh Jackman ate to become Wolverine. That's probably what it is. Um, and he probably has still water and only ever still water. Which movie star do I have a man crush on? What a great question. Which movie star do I have a man crush on? Um, Brett Goldstein. He plays Roy Kent in Ted Lasso, and he hosts Films to Be Buried With. But it's not like a man crush where I'm like, oh, I'd like to date him. It's more just like I just want to hang out and talk movies with him. And I think he's very charming and funny. Um, so Brett Goldstein, I guess, is the first man I thought of. Who else to have a man crush on? There's definitely like there's probably someone else who also have a man crush on. Can't think of anyone. So let's stick with Brett Goldstein. He seems like a lovely guy. I am. Oh, you know what? And like he's not. I know he's an actor. He's in Ghostbusters. James Acaster. But again, like not in love. Don't want to date him. I just want to hang out and talk to him and just have him make me laugh for an hour. Um, two Brits. There we go. Um, Yeah, this question's very clever. Again, I'm pretty sure I know who asked this question. Why do the actors who played Cedric Diggory, Edward Cullen, and Bruce Wayne all look alike? Multiverse. That's the answer. Multiverse. Um, what's an old horror movie that needs a remake? Um, I think like there's an argument to be made for remaking a lot of Dario Argento stuff, like especially after Suspiria. Like that Suspiria remake is so good. I like it better than the original. And that's not to say anything poorly about the original. The original one's excellent. It's so evocative and colorful, and the Goblin music, like it's great. But what they did with that remake is nothing short of a magic trick. So you could remake some Dario Argento stuff, like Phenomena. Pieces. I'd love to see Pieces remade. Um, the tagline for Pieces is exactly what it sounds like, and basically it's a guy going around cutting up people on campus, women women on campus, I think, and creating like the perfect female body. It sounds awful because that is a horrible crime, but it's like top tier 80s horror. Um, Toxic Avenger they did remake, but they haven't released it yet, so I'd like to see that. What other classic horror films can they remake? Or old horror films, sorry. They remade, Friday the 13th, but I haven't seen Friday the 13th in 15 years. Like, give me some more of that. I'd like another Friday remake. Trying to think if there's anything like distinct from my past that I like, and I would like to see remade. That's what's old. Oh, Sleepaway Camp. You couldn't do it. There's no way you could remake Sleepaway Camp. But Sleepaway Camp, remake that, man. That's a wild flick. If you've never seen Sleepaway Camp, I'm not spoiling it for you. It's got the best twist ending of all time. Better than The Mist, better than Eden Lake. Sleepaway Camp. Remake that, or remake some Dario Argento. Like, go into like the Giallo genre. Like, that's such a fun genre. Go in with that and play around there. What is the best or worst advice said in a movie? Um, what is the best or worst advice given that's said in a movie? Let's see if we can think of worst advice first. I don't know. There's definitely some bad advice out there in movies, but I just can't think off the top of my head. Um, Yeah, I don't know. If I can think of any before we wrap up the episode, I'll come back to that question. Best advice, I think, comes from Ferris Bueller, and that's life moves pretty fast. If you don't take a look around at what once in a while, you might miss it. I think that's 100% true. We get so focused on the stresses of day to day life, myself included. I was having a chat with Tina before I record this episode. I've been pretty stressed out these last couple of weeks. There's a lot going on, and it's important to just breathe. I ended up in hospital like a month ago because I was sweating the small stuff, So life, yeah. Ferris Bueller said it best. I'm sure Tina is thrilled that I am quoting Ferris Bueller because she doesn't like that movie at all. That also Randall from Clerks, shit or get off the pot. Really important. Make a decision. Don't and ah. Don't worry about like what people are going to think of your decisions. Like you only get so many spins around that sun of ours. Like make decisions that are going to suit you and those important to you, and move forward. So those are some of the best pieces of advice. Worst advice, I'm not sure yet, but if I think of any, I'll let you know. What's my favorite movie quote? I don't know. What is my? There are a couple that I can't repeat because I try to keep it clean, even though I quoted Randall just before. Um, a lot from Hot Fuzz I really like. Um, You're a doctor, deal with it. That's a good one. Um, and I quote that a lot, actually. I quote Hot Fuzz a lot. A great big bushy beard. That's a good one. I don't know what my favorite is. I'm not even supposed to be here today. I don't know if it's my favorite quote, but I do quote it a lot. Um, if I'm having a bad day, like that's my go-to quote, which I don't know what that says about me and about that movie to have like a negative connotation, but um, yeah, I don't know. Why'd it have to be snakes? That's I don't know. I don't have a favorite quote. Sorry, whoever asked that. It's a good question. I just don't have a good answer. I guess my favorite quote. I don't know it off by heart though. Let me look it up. I know, yeah. Like he's looking something up again. Well done, James. He's looking up his favorite quote that he doesn't even know. It's from Blues Brothers. Like it's a cool quote. I just can't remember it because it is long. Um, but let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. So again, I should know it off by heart. I used to know it when I was younger, but it's been a while. But it's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. That's a cool quote. I like that one. Um, but I don't really have favorites. Yeah, sorry. Um, I'm sorry, Earth is closed today. A lot of Iron Man's dialogue from all the different Marvel films I quite like as well. Um, what's my? I know that's my favorite quote. Do I have any piercings? No, I have no piercings. I don't really intend. I'm not like a body jewelry guy. I'm not a jewelry guy at all. I remember before we got married, my wife was like, "You'll wear your wedding ring, won't you?" I'm like, "Oh, maybe the kind of chain or something." And she's like, "That wasn't a question. You will wear your wedding ring." I was like, "Yes, yes, my beautiful wife, I will." But other than a wedding ring, I don't wear jewelry, so no piercings, no plans to get one. I'll jump ahead, and this kind of ties in. Someone has asked me if I'm going to get a tattoo. Maybe. Never say never. For like, I've been wanting tattoos since before I was 18. Especially when I was a teenager, I really wanted tattoos, but I can't commit to anything. There's nothing I can think of where I'm like, oh, that'd look good in a t-shirt, and then I just get a t-shirt instead. Um, but never say never. Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do like. Yeah, I'm not anti-tattoo. I like tattoos. I think they look cool, but I just there's nothing I've can really. Everything cool that I like, I have a T-shirt of. I've got so many Batman T-shirts and like superhero T-shirts. Um, yeah, but maybe one day. What's a good movie I absolutely hate? There is none. I don't hate anything. I don't hate anything. I don't hate anyone. Certainly not movies. Movies are my favorite thing in the world. There are movies that aren't for me, but I don't hate them. And if I'm taking that question too seriously, what's a movie I don't really like? I kind of answered it before, like with the movie bonus guys. Like it's not that I don't like them; they're just not for me. Like there are some movies that aren't for me. Transformers franchise, not for me. I'm just not the audience for that. But I don't hate them. Transformers films have been great for the industry. They've put a lot of bums in seats, a lot of money in the box office, and keep people coming out to the movies. We need another Transformers film. Um, the only movies that I hate are like I don't not even hate, but I hate lazy filmmaking. I hate boring filmmaking. Like, no, don't be lazy. Tell the story. Coming from the guy who wasn't expecting to walk on this episode of the podcast. Um, and well, this is a lovely question to go. This is not movie related at all, but this last question, and it could have been a bot, but this is a great question to go on. I think it's a perfect way to wrap up the episode. And that who's the friend that supports you most? It's my wife, Tina. She's my best friend. We've been together since 2007. We've been together for 17 years now. We hit our seventh wedding anniversary in November of this year. Um, and she puts up with a lot of stuff. And I don't mean that like she's constantly saying she puts up with stuff, but like I'm not the easiest person to live with. If you listen to the last two episodes, there's a lot of stuff going on upstairs for me in my mind. Um, I turned our garage into a home theater. I do my I fill our house with Blu-rays and DVDs. I drag her onto podcasts, and she's happy to do it. But um, there is not a single thing I've tried to do she hasn't said yes to. She supports me with everything. Um, she supports me emotionally. Supports me mentally. She helps me with everything. She is my best friend, and she is the friend who supports me most. But I'm lucky, like Josh supports me, Nick supports me, Gabby supports me, Samantha supports me, all my pals support me. I'm very, very lucky. I don't have the world's largest group of friends, but I got some really wonderful friends. And if I ask for help, they're always there. Don't even ask why. They just come and help out. So that's where I'm going to end it. That is the last question. I didn't plan it this way, but what a great question to go out on. So that's the end of episode 99. It was just me answering questions, obviously, and I didn't prepare. Like I looked at the questions as they came through, but I never looked at them a second time. I didn't prepare my answers, and you can tell because when it came to Brian's question about top 5 movies with under 99 in the title, that took me a minute. But look, thank you so much for listening to me ramble on. Thank you for your questions if you submitted one. Thank you for your movie suggestions if you submitted those in. Even if your questions were anonymous, I appreciate it. Just reaching out, supporting the show, getting involved. It means a lot to me. Um, this is it. Next week, next episode will be episode 100. We're going to do the radio play, episode 101. I think I've talked about it already. If I haven't, we're going to go behind the scenes on episode 100 ultimately, and kind of Tina and I are going to go deep on how the whole episode came together and how we worked on it and how it came about, that sort of thing. And then we'll also break some news. There's some big news coming up. We'll talk about on episode 101. and then that will kind of let you know the future of the show. Show's not going anywhere. I'm not canceling the show. I'm not done with the show. It's not like, hey, 101 episodes and we're out. The show is 100% continuing, but we're making some changes in our life, which we'll be able to talk more about on episode 101, and that may impact the show at least temporarily. But thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening to the last 99 episodes. If you want to have a chat, you want to talk movies with me, shoot me a message on Instagram, slide into those DMs, comment on my posts, send me a like, all that sort of stuff. Do all those things. I'll get in contact. Everyone who's reached out to me, I've spoken to. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll catch you next week on episode 100. It's going to be killer. You don't want to miss it. It's so much fun. But until then, as I say every week, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.